The glass shattered before Adrian Vale even knew his hand had thrown it. Red wine bled across the marble floor, seeping toward the contract that still lay open on his desk like a corpse at a crime scene. "Tell me this isn't real." His voice was low, dangerous, the kind of tone that had made executives, senators, even presidents flinch. But Marcus, his CFO of 15 years, didn't flinch. He just stared at the document, pale as bone. "It's binding, Adrian. You signed away Vale Global this morning. That's impossible." "I read every—" "No, you didn't." Marcus finally looked up. Page 17. Clause 9. You missed it. Outside the office's 36th floor windows, rain hammered the city. The skyline blurred. So did Adrian's future. Because somewhere out there, a stranger now owned everything he'd built. And he had no idea who they were. Find out," Adrian said. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Now, Marcus was already moving, fingers stuttering over the keyboard like a pianist who'd forgotten how to play. The rain threw itself against the windows. Somewhere below, sirens threaded through the streets. "Hold on." Marcus squinted at his screen. "There's a notice filed with the exchange. Change of control. Parent entity. Northbridge Social Impact Trust. Never heard of it. It's new." Marcus's jaw worked. "Registered out of a non-profit incubator. Beneficiary class is one name. Say it." He swallowed. "Lena Morrow?" Adrian laughed. One hard, humorless sound that made the room colder. "Who the hell is Lena Morrow?" "I don't know." Marcus's eyes flicked, reading, calculating. "She's 23? Former warehouse worker? No assets, no priors." He hesitated, then added, "Her mother died last year in a rural county where Vale Agritech ran trials. There was a—" Stop. Adrian's knuckles went white around the back of his chair. "Get me my lawyer. My phone says yours is already calling," Marcus muttered. And also, he turned the monitor so Adrian could see. The Vale Global dashboard had shifted to gray. "Access revoked" shimmered in polite, merciless letters. "How?" Adrian whispered. "Clause 9 triggers immediate systems transfer upon signature receipt." Marcus's mouth tightened. "Which it has." The office lights flickered, just long enough to feel like an omen. In the silence, Adrian heard the unsteady thud of his own pulse. Car. Now. They took the executive elevator. It stalled 3 floors down, jolting hard enough to make both men grab the rail. Adrian slammed the emergency button with his palm. A voice crackled through the speaker. "Elevator recall in progress, Mr. Vale. Too cheerful. Security requested." "By who?" Adrian demanded. "By the interim controller." He stared at the tiny speaker as if he could force it to lie. "Put me through." The elevator didn't connect him to anyone. It obediently opened at the lobby where a tide of employees swirled around security stanchions, whispering, watching. The guard who'd been with him a decade couldn't quite meet his eyes. "Mr. Vale," the guard said quietly, "your access is suspended." "I'll need your badge." Marcus and Adrian stepped into the river of murmurs. Cameras rose like periscopes from the crowd. Board members he'd handpicked stared from the mezzanine, their faces carefully blank. So this was what fear looked like when it put on a suit. Adrian slid the badge across the marble. "I'll remember every face that watched," he said, voice low. "Every single face." He walked out into the rain without an umbrella. The chauffeur hadn't come. Marcus caught up, breath frosting in the cold air. "I booked us a car. 5 minutes or make it one." Adrian stared at his reflection in the dark glass of the revolving door. Expensive suit, rain-slick hair, the practiced neutrality of a man who'd negotiated nations. Beneath it, something feral clawed for escape. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. A soft voice, unassuming, almost apologetic. "Vale? Yes. This is Lena." A beat. Lena Morrow. He closed his eyes just once, like a boxer taking the first hit to learn the weight of the opponent. "Why are you calling my personal line?" "Because your switchboard hung up on me," she said faintly. "And it felt rude to take your company without at least hearing your voice." "Take," he repeated. Pause. "I'm at Rourke and Ames," she added quickly. "Your attorney said you were coming. I thought it would be better to meet in person so we can be clear." "Clear about what?" "About what I want." "What do you want, Miss Morrow?" The car slid to the curb, door opening like a black mouth. Her answer was simple. "For you to stop hurting people." The line went dead. Adrian climbed in without looking at Marcus. The city smeared past like a painting in the rain. You hear that? Adrian said finally. I did. What did your research say her mother died of? Renal failure. There were allegations of groundwater contamination near a test site, Vale contracted, but it didn't stick. Marcus's voice ran out of breath. You won the case, Adrian. I win a lot of cases, he said, and watched the wipers cut the storm into obedient stripes. Rourke and Ames sat inside a steel and glass box that tried to look like a cathedral. The receptionist's smile trembled when she saw Adrian. Word traveled faster than the elevator did. They were ushered into a conference room that had more square footage than some apartments. The girl at the far end stood when he entered. She was thinner than he'd pictured from the voice. Gray sweater that had been washed until it lost its memory. Hair twisted into a messy knot, rain-making dark commas at her temples. A backpack lay at her feet, frayed at the seams. She looked like someone who apologized when other people bumped into her. And yet she didn't step back. Miss Vale, she said, and there was something in her eyes. Not defiance, not triumph. Clarity. Thank you for coming. You stole my company, he said evenly, as if correcting a line in a script. Lena blinked. I didn't steal anything. A door opened behind her, and the lawyer from the signing stepped in, the toothless smile intact. Lovely to see you again, Mr. Vale. Adrian took a chair. He didn't sit. Explain. The lawyer folded his hands. The Round River Initiative your firm launched 6 months ago, remember? The social impact bond. You pledged a percentage of Vale Global in return for regulatory accommodations and favorable public financing. Smart, public applauded. And your pledge was secured with a beneficiary class vested in a trust. That beneficiary is Ms. Morrow, Adrian finally sat. Why her? Lena's fingers tightened on the edge of her chair. Because my mom kept every paper, she said softly. When she got sick, she applied to a Vale-funded clinic. The clinic closed. The debt didn't. Some community group tried to help and pushed us into this program. I signed some things. I didn't know they were tied to you. To all of this. She didn't pick herself, the lawyer interjected, sticky sweet. The trust did. Algorithmic. Predictive hardship. You agreed to it, Mr. Vale. He stared at him. I agreed to 1,000 things. My counsel vetted them. The lawyer's brows rose. Of course. The glass hummed with rain. A server set down coffee they didn't touch. What do you want? Adrian said again, outside of moral theatrics. Lena looked at her hands. When she spoke, her voice was steadier. 2 divisions you own, Agri Tech and Mineral Logistics, operate in districts where the water's more poison than water. My neighbors learned to read the color of their taps. My mom's fingernails went gray. She lifted her eyes. You could fix it. You didn't. He could have argued longer. He could have pointed to spreadsheets and compliance audits and 5,000 jobs that relied on those divisions existing at all. Instead, he found himself looking at the cheap backpack by her feet and realized how very far $1 billion was from understanding the weight of a single bag. Marcus cleared his throat. We're prepared to make you whole, Ms. Morrow, generously. A sale back with a premium. You'll never work again. Lena's mouth tightened into something like a smile. I already don't, Mr. Marcus. The warehouse laid me off. That's how I had time to sit in waiting rooms and listen? Listen to what? Adrian asked. She reached into the backpack and set a small recorder on the table. Pushed play. Static. Then voices, male, familiar. Add it to page 17. He signs fast when he wants something. Feed him the clock. Adrian didn't recognize the first voice. The second he knew instantly. Marcus. The room didn't move, and yet Adrian felt a tilt. Marcus's face went slack, then hardened so fast it cracked. That's not. Marcus started, stopped. That's edited. Out of context, the recording continued mercilessly. If he asks, say it was there yesterday, Marcus's voice said. And stop calling me here. A chair leg scraped the floor, Adrian's. He stood. Why? He asked, almost curious. Why did that to me? Marcus's mouth opened, closed. He aimed for righteous and landed on tired. Because you don't listen, Adrian. Because you were going to kill the bond and pin the failed optics on me. Because I'm the one who cleans up your messes. I gave you what you always take. An out. Sell it like you saved the planet. Take it back later through a shell. You'd have forgiven me after the headlines cooled. Adrian stared at the man who'd stood beside him for 15 years. Funerals, mergers, nights that bled into mornings. He tried to calculate the specific moment he'd stopped seeing him. The lawyer coughed gently. If I may steer us back, Ms. Morrow has already declined preliminary buyback overtures. She proposes terms. Lena took a breath. You reform the divisions, permanently. Independent oversight, not a committee you control. You fund clinics and water systems in every district you profit from. You publish all emissions data in real time, and you step down. Silence. From what? Adrian said finally. If I have nothing to step down from your name, Lena said. The brand is you. The brand is the harm. The trust gives me control to unmake it. I don't want to hurt the employees you always use as human shields. I want to change what makes them sick. He felt the old habit try to muscle in. The speech about market realities, about how change is a staircase, not a window. But something in the recording still reverberated through his chest like an alarm he couldn't find the snooze for. What do I get, he asked, if I agree to your revolution? You get to build something that lets you sleep, she paused. And I sign back equity, eventually. Not all. Enough to keep money moving while we fix what needs fixing. You're lecturing a man whose signature is on half the skyline, Marcus snapped. Lena didn't look at him. Maybe that's the problem. From the corridor came the faint blur of footsteps. The door opened. A woman stepped in. Sharp suit, hairpinned, eyes like audit trails. Adrian recognized her. Mara Delaney, chair of the Vale Global Board. She never came anywhere without 3 lawyers and a threat wrapped like a mint. Conference room was crowded, Mara said pleasantly. Thought I'd simplify. Mr. Vale, Ms. Morrow. She nodded at Marcus without warmth. We have a situation. I noticed, Adrian said. The board can accept Ms. Morrow's terms, Mara continued, or litigate. Arbitration will freeze operations and tank the share price. I'm not sentimental. She slid a folder onto the table and flipped it open to a photograph. Drone shot of a settlement hugging a brown river. But I am pragmatic. We can't afford public enemies who cry and are correct. Lena's shoulders tensed. I'm not trying to be anyone's enemy. Excellent, Mara said briskly, which makes this easier. It almost did. Until Mara turned the page. A photograph of a form, signature block, not Adrian's. Whose signature is that? Adrian demanded. Mara tapped the page with a red lacquered nail. The guarantor on the Round River Pledge. The person who, if bad actors tried to vacuum out the moral backbone of this initiative, would hold title until the terms were met. Adrian leaned in, the name blurred then clicked into focus. Emily Vale, his ex-wife. He looked up, 100 memories folding over themselves. Emily on a beach with their daughter tangled on her lap. Emily on the courthouse steps, not gloating. Emily refusing the settlement that would have made their divorce painless and dishonest. You didn't tell me, he said to no one and to everyone. Mara shrugged. You don't ask. Lena glanced between them, alarm flickering. If she's involved, I don't want to be a piece in the middle of... The door opened again. A woman stepped in, rain beating on her trench coat like pearls. Hello, Adrian. Emily said quietly, eyes steady. We need to talk about the promise you made me and the one you broke. The lawyer sat back, fascinated. Marcus went very still. Mara smiled like a wolf given cutlery. Adrian's mouth was suddenly stupidly dry. What promise? Emily's gaze cut to Lena, then back. Her voice held no heat, only precision. The one you made the night our daughter stopped breathing. The one where you said if the machine ever worked again, you'd put the world back where it belonged. Lena blinked, confused. Machine? Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a thin plastic inhaler, cracked at the seam, the kind handed out in clinics with fluorescent lights that always flickered. She set it on the table between them like a detonator, like an invitation. Do you want me to explain? She asked. Or do you want to explain it to her yourself? Outside, thunder rattled the glass. Inside, Adrian's reflection divided into a dozen pieces across the conference room windows. And then the fire alarm began to scream. The fire alarm screamed like a nerve exposed. Red strobes pulsed against glass, making faces into masks and rain into blood. Is this real? Lena asked, half standing. Mara didn't flinch. Unclear. We evacuated their way. She turned to the lawyer. Leon, you know the routes. Leon's smile faltered. Of course. Emily scooped the inhaler back into her bag with a steady hand. Adrian, he nodded. We go. The door yawned to a hallway full of motion. Paralegals clutching laptops, partners cradling framed diplomas like life preservers. Somewhere far off, a heavier alarm beat, deeper, angrier. Marcus leaned close as they moved. This is a stunt. Whose? Adrian asked. Yours would be smart. Mine would be obvious. Mara's would be surgical. Marcus's eyes cut toward Leon. His would be wet. Lena sidled up to Emily, voice small under the siren. Is your daughter okay? She is now. Emily didn't slow. She wasn't then. They funneled toward the stairwell. The crowd jammed at the door. A young associate shoved. Apologized, shoved again. Leon disappeared ahead, that same practice glide Adrian had noticed earlier. Mara fell back beside Adrian. You're sweating. It's raining inside. She looked up at the sprinkler, then at him. It's about to rain harder. What does that mean? It means if your ex-wife is the guarantor, she can cut you out entirely if you behave like you always do. What I always do is keep things standing, he snapped. People made that collective sub-animal sound crowds make when they suddenly admit danger into their lungs. They started down. 3 flights, and Adrian saw Leon again, halfway between floors, shoulder pressed to a security panel. He looked up, saw them, and moved away too fast. What are you doing? Adrian shouted over the alarm. Checking if it's blocked below, Leon called back, pleasant, unruffled. It is. He wasn't lying. A floor down, smoke elbowed through the gap. Thicker, more sure of itself. Mara grabbed the rail and pivoted. Alternate access through the archives level. There's a service corridor that bypasses reception. Archives? Marcus snorted. How conveniently flammable. They reversed elbows and apologies and cut across to a second stairwell. The alarm changed pitch, as if the building were inhaling. In the crush, Lena lost her footing. Adrian's hand shot out and caught her before she hit the landing. Thanks, she said, breathless. Don't make me regret it, he said, and hated himself as soon as he did. The archives level was colder. The sprinkler here had failed, or been shut off. Paper has a smell when it knows it's in danger. Dry and high and paper cut sharp, boxes stacked like sleeping animals. Red exit signs blinked like low batteries. Keep moving, Mara said, voice clipped. No phones until we're outside. Press will turn you into a meal before you decide what you are. Leon drifted to a glassed-in room labeled Records Retention. He swiped and the door clicked. Why do you have clearance? Adrian asked. Leon's smile reappeared, the kind meant to sell coffins. I'm counsel, stop, Lena said suddenly. Where's my bag? They all turned. It wasn't on her shoulder. Panic rose like heat off pavement. When did you last have it? Marcus said. Too fast. The conference room? Someone must have. Leon, Mara said. Her voice went from cordial to command so smoothly Adrian almost missed it. Check the room. Bring it. Don't touch anything else. I'm not your clerk, Leon said mildly. But he went. A door slammed somewhere. The alarm pulsed. Adrian's eyes kept catching on exit signs, then sliding off them, unable to commit to leaving. Emily touched his arm. He almost jumped. You wanted to ask why I signed, she said. I wanted to ask when you decided I was the problem and not the weather. Don't. She nodded at Lena. Not here. Here is all we have. She slid him a look that was all the years between them. You promised me the night our daughter seized on the bathroom floor that you would tear up anything that kept children breathing smoke. You promised if you had to, you'd burn your own name to the ground. He opened his mouth, closed it. I was frantic. We say things when, we mean them most. She squeezed his arm once, hard enough to leave him more awake. Stop pretending you don't know exactly which divisions made those inhalers cheap and those neighborhoods worse. You threaded the needle and called it innovation. I threaded the needle and called it survival, he said. We were 2 quarters from an activist raid. You think I didn't run the math on every head I didn't want to lay off? You didn't run the math on lungs. Across the hall, a fire door buckled inward with a cough of smoke. Marcus swore. Move, Morrow ordered. We don't debate ethics while the building debates structural integrity. They pressed on. The service corridor was narrow, the kind built for carts and invisible people. The alarm quieted here, like the building was listening. Ceiling tiles sagged with dark water circles. Halfway down, something slapped Adrian's shoulder and fell. He looked down. A flash drive. Cheap, gray plastic. Someone had taped an index tab to it and scrawled, RR17 do not trust. He crouched, picked it up. It was warm, as if it had been in a pocket until a heartbeat ago. "Whose is that?" Emily asked. "I don't know." He tucked it into his inner jacket. "But someone wants me to." Lena's voice came small from behind them. "I think that was for me." Adrian looked at her. "Why?" "Because RR is Round River," she said, and her face had shifted in a way that made him realize how much she'd been trying to stay small. "And because I started this." "What does that mean?" Marcus demanded. Lena met his impatience with something like iron. "It means my mother tried to whistleblow," she said. "She wrote to 100 people. No one answered, so I answered back for her after she died." Mara pushed open an unmarked door. Cool air shouldered in like a rescue. "Outside," she said. "Argue under open sky." They stepped into the alley. Sirens braided around the block. The law firm's windows blinked red like a giant was winking. News vans beached themselves at the curb. Phones lifted. Names were spat into microphones like curses and prayers. Leon emerged from a side door, empty-handed, sucking air like a sprinted dog. "Couldn't get back in. Security sealed it." "Convenient," Marcus muttered. Leon patted his pocket, then stopped, frowning. He patted again, harder. "What?" Mara said sharply. "My keycard," Leon said, and he went pale. "My phone, Lena's bag," Mara said, and all the words turned to knives. "Gone," Leon admitted. Lena's face blazed. "That recorder? We still have the copy you sent me?" Mara cut in. "You did send me a copy, didn't you, Ms. Morrow?" Lena hesitated just long enough to make everyone notice. "Yes." Adrian heard the lie. He wasn't sure why he knew it. Some old instinct for bad bets, maybe. He felt the flash drive in his pocket like a second heart. A uniformed fire captain strode up, jaw tight. "Everyone from the 30th floor conference set? We need statements." His eyes landed on Adrian, narrowed. "And we need you out of the line of sight. You're magnetizing cameras." Mara stepped in. "He'll give a statement later." "That's not how—" "It is today," Mara said, and walked him back, shielding him with her body like armor made of litigation. Across the street, a chant started. Ragged, hungry. "Water back. Lives back. Water back." A woman shoved through the crowd toward them, hair plastered to her cheeks, holding up a printed email like a flag. "Miss Morrow," she shouted, "you don't know me. I knew your mother." "I knew your mother." "She wrote me." She said someone inside wanted out. They left something in the archive. In a red folder, Lena's throat worked. I didn't," she said to trust Emily Vale. The woman added, turning to Emily, "She said you were the only one who called her back." Emily's eyes flicked to Adrian, then away. "I did," she said. "I set up the trust when your company announced Round River because I didn't trust you to keep your promise without a leash." Adrian's laugh scraped his teeth. "A leash. I asked you to be a person," Emily said. "Not a brand." A black SUV nosed into the alley, wrong place at a bad time. The rear door opened and a hand waved. Adrian recognized the driver. A company security chief who shouldn't have been anywhere near here if his access was truly revoked. "Mr. Vale," the chief called, voice low. "Quick ride." Mara stepped between them. "He doesn't ride with anyone I didn't call." The chief's eyes flicked to Marcus. He did. All eyes pinged to Marcus. He shrugged, a blade's width of movement. "We need to regroup before PR writes our obituaries." "Your obituary," Lina said. Adrian could feel the edges of the trap closing. Public pressure, board politics, private betrayals braided until he could no longer tell which thread would strangle him first. The flash drive burned. 5 minutes, he said. "Then we come back." Mara opened her mouth and snapped it shut. "Fine, but you don't go anywhere alone." Emily looked like she wanted to argue, and like she was tired of always being right. 5 minutes, she repeated. They climbed into the SUV. Adrian, Emily, Lena, despite Mara's glare, and Marcus because he refused to be left out of any room. The chief pulled into traffic and then, abruptly away from it, nose cutting a narrow street that smelled like cold oil and copper water. "This isn't the way to headquarters," Marcus said. "Didn't say it was," the chief replied. Eyes forward. Adrian braced a hand on the seat. "Where are we going?" The chief didn't answer. He sped up. Emily's hand found Adrian's unconsciously, squeezed once, let go. Something tense and old as a wire between them hummed. "Turn around," Adrian said. The chief didn't. Turn around, he said again, quieter. The chief flicked his eyes to the rear view. You told me once to be proactive, sir. I also told you not to kidnap me, Adrian said. The chief smirked. I'm not kidnapping you. I'm saving you from yourself. He took another hard turn and ducked into a loading dock behind a decommissioned newspaper warehouse. The roller door was halfway up, enough to swallow a car. Out, the chief said. They got out. The air in the warehouse tasted like ink ghosts. The overhead lights ticked on in a stagger, reluctant. Footsteps approached, confident, polished by privilege. A figure emerged from between pallet stacks. Not Mara, not Leon, Caleb Rain. A rival CEO whose smile had once been on the cover of a magazine Adrian's board had waved at him like a prophecy. The man who'd tried to buy Vail Global 2 years earlier and had been told he could have a wing of one building and a lunch if he behaved. Adrian, Caleb said warmly. Heard it's raining. Adrian held the look, and in that look, cataloged 10 possibilities, 9 of which ended with a knife between his ribs, and 1 of which ended with a handshake he'd hate himself for. What do you want? Adrian said. Same thing you do, Caleb replied, strolling closer. To not die in public. Lena stepped in front of Adrian before he could stop her. You're the one who tried to buy his company and gut it. Caleb's mouth creased. Gutting is such an ugly word. I prefer optimize. And who are you? Your new problem, she said. Emily put a hand on Lena's arm. Careful. Caleb took them in like a man selecting wine. I'm here, he said, because chaos is expensive and because our donors overlap. Round River spooked them. Today scares them. They want a stable villain, not a bleeding hero. Donors, Adrian said, to your political hobby horses. To every horse that keeps industries from being regulated into museums, Caleb said pleasantly. Let me, in my generosity, offer an option. I take the liability divisions off your hands tonight. The trust keeps its halo, you keep your brand, and I take the heat. Lena stared at him. You're offering to buy the poison. Maybe I bottle it better, he said, eyes like glass. Maybe I dilute. Maybe I build a filtration plant and name it after your mother. This is how ugly things become beautiful, Ms. Morrow. Money laundering for sin. Adrian felt the nausea of a pitch he'd made before in another suit to another person's conscience. It tasted like tin in the underside of his tongue. No, he said. No, Caleb blinked, genuinely surprised. Since when do you know? Since now. Caleb's smile thinned. Then you'll enjoy what happens when those emails drop? What emails? Emily asked softly. Caleb's gaze slid to her. The ones where your husband wrote to legal about the inhaler recall and said, and I quote, delay until Q4. Optics are worse than fatalities. Silence ricocheted. Adrian's mouth opened. No words came. Emily's face didn't move. Her eyes did. He didn't write that. He did. Caleb pulled a phone, tapped, held it out. On the screen, a forwarded chain, internal tags, Vail letterhead, Adrian's signature block, words he had never wanted to see next to his name. It's fabricated, Adrian said, throat raw. Easily said, Caleb murmured. Harder to make believable by morning. The board will need a scalp. Miss Morrow needs a win. Emily needs a reason to let go of the leash. I provide all three, if you give me what I want. Lena looked at Adrian, not with pity, with assessment. Did you write anything like that? No, he said. I wrote other things. Bad enough, but not that. Emily was already moving slow and exact. Who sent you those emails, Caleb? An old friend of yours, he said. And his. Footsteps clanged from the mezzanine. A man appeared at the rail, phone in one hand, a red folder in the other. Leon. His tie was gone. His smile wasn't. Found the bag, Leon said, almost cheerful. He waved the red folder. Found the thing in the archive, too. Or 17. Very dramatic. Lena's breath hitched. Give it to me. No, Leon said kindly. But I'll give it to Mr. Rain, who will keep it safe and sell it back in pieces. Marcus's voice blew out of him like a tire. You were working Caleb? Not me. Leon blew him a kiss. Dear heart, I was working everyone. Emily stepped forward. Those emails are fake, she said to Leon. I'll prove it. You won't have time, Leon replied. That's the point of fire alarms. Caleb tucked his phone away. Tick-tock, Adrian. Give me agri-tech and minerals, sign a joint statement with Ms. Morrow about partnership and new stewardship, and this all dissolves. The public gets a story. You get to live to make more mistakes. And if I don't? Adrian asked. Then tomorrow the world reads the line about optics and fatalities. And it won't matter if it's fake. They'll believe it because they want to. The warehouse lights hummed. Somewhere outside, a helicopter chopped the air. Lena looked between Caleb's outstretched hand and Adrian's closed one. Emily stared at Leon like she could will him to be someone else. Marcus stood so still he almost disappeared. Adrian reached inside his jacket and felt the flash drive again. "What's on row 17?" he asked Leon. "That you can't afford for her to see." Leon tilted his head. "Wouldn't you like to know?" "Yes," Adrian said softly. "I would." He flicked the drive to Emily. She caught it without looking at it. Her mouth tightened. She slid it into her bag. Caleb clocked it. So did Leon. "Don't," Caleb said. Emily smiled without warmth. "You said it yourself, opt it." Then the roller door at the front shuddered and slammed halfway down as if slapped by a giant. A wedge of darkness fell across the floor. A second SUV screeched into the gap, half in, half out. The badge on the grill was government, not corporate. Agents and windbreakers spilled yelling names. Environmental Crimes Division in white letters across their backs. Mara stepped through their phalanx like she'd ordered it. All precision and lipstick and inevitability. "Mr. Rain," she called. "Cool as winter. Stay exactly where you are. Mr. Vale, Ms. Morrow, come with." Caleb raised his hands, laughing once. "Mara, you brought friends. I brought a clock," she said, "and your time ran out." A badge snapped open inches from Leon's face. Hands where we can see them. He lifted them, still smiling as if even this were part of his choreography. The red folder dangled. "Drop it," an agent barked. He did. The folder burst open when it hit the concrete, papers fanning like a white flag. Everyone's eyes went to the top page. There, in black and white, was the Round River algorithm map. Not a list of beneficiaries, a list of targets. Districts marked for acceptable loss, names red circled, notes that read like triage for lives, delayed mitigation acceptable, litigation reserve allocated. Lena made a sound Adrian had never heard from a human mouth. Emily's hand searched blindly for his and didn't find it. Marcus took a half step back like distance could make new facts untrue. "We don't," he started. "Save it," Mara said, brittle. "We're past the era where denial qualifies as strategy." An agent bent, snatched the papers, bagged them. Another moved to Caleb, patted him down with efficiency that made him look briefly small. Caleb's smile didn't break. "You can't arrest a market." "No," Mara said. "But you can arrest a man." She turned to Adrian. Her voice was quiet enough to live between them. "You wanted a way out. Here it is. You help them. You cut him. You cut Leon. You cut your past clean." "And if I don't?" Adrian asked, even though he already knew. "Then the world will cut you." Lena looked at him, eyes brimmed with heat and demand. "You said since now. Make it mean something." The agents were already moving Leon toward the door. He twisted once, a cat's motion. Eyes on Adrian. "See you at your funeral," he purred. "See you at yours," Adrian said, and surprised himself with how even it sounded. A gust of night wind slid under the half-open door and skated along the floor, lifting the top page of the scattered documents that hadn't been bagged yet. It flipped like a fish. A photograph underneath caught the light, a clinic hallway, a child on a gurney, a row of inhalers in a cardboard box stamped with Vale's logo, and a lot number Adrian, recognized like a scar. Lot 7C. The lot that had failed in testing and been cleared anyway after an anomalous batch report Marcus had convinced him to sign off on for continuity. Emily saw it the moment he did. Her breath left her. "Lot 7C, she said. "Our daughter." The room collapsed to a pinpoint and expanded in the same breath. Sirens, ink, paper, rain, light. Caleb's laugh. Mara's command. Lena's heartbeat beating his. Adrian took one step forward and then another, toward the agents, toward the documents, toward whatever came next. "Wait!" A voice called from the dark by the roller door. A small figure stepped under the fluorescent light, holding something to her chest like a relic. Black hair, a jacket too big, eyes Adrian knew better than his own. Their daughter, standing in the doorway, holding a box of inhalers. "How did she?" Emily whispered, the sentence breaking apart in her mouth. The girl looked at her father, and voice steady in a way too grown for her age, said, "Dad, Are these the ones that almost killed me? The warehouse filled with the sound of the door grinding shut, sealing them all in with the question. The door finished grinding shut, the sound like a swallowed scream. The box trembled in the crook of the girl's arms. Dad, she said again, slower now, measuring him. Are these the ones that almost killed me? Adrian's throat closed. He reached for the box. She held it tighter as if afraid he'd make it disappear. Emily moved first. Sweetheart, who gave you that? A woman at the fire line, the girl swallowed. She said, give this to your father. Tell him to look at the number. She knew my name. Agents tensed. One stepped between them and Caleb, palm out. We need that box. Emily glanced at the badge, then at her daughter. Okay, she murmured. Hand it to me, then I'll hand it to them. The girl's fingers unclenched. Emily slid the box's tape with her nail. Inside, inhalers in shrink-wrapped rows, the blue plastic catching the overhead light. On each, a sticker with a tiny font lock code. Lena hovered, eyes wide. Let me see, an agent lifted a scanner. Back up, please. No, Emily said. Scan here. Where she can see, the red beam flicked each code. The handheld chirped. On the third inhaler, the screen flashed orange. Lot 7C, recall, override, CFO authorization. Emily's hand jittered. Again, she whispered. The agent scanned another. Orange, another. Orange. Marcus coughed a laugh that wasn't a laugh. Override doesn't mean, makes it worse. Adrian said, voice a gravel road. He turned to his daughter. I didn't know these were shipped. I signed another document, a risk tolerance memo. He dragged air into his ribs. It was a mistake, a bad one. Her face pressed itself into blankness, the way children's faces do when they learn adults are fallible in ways that hurt. So you did this. He looked at the inhalers, looked at her. Yes, something moved through her, anger, grief, relief at hearing the shape of it. She didn't cry. She set her jaw like a door. A cough echoed from the rafters. Warehouse dust, old ink, anxiety. The girl's shoulders hitched. The cough doubled. Alarm rose along the line of her throat. Emily recognized it first. She's seizing Adrian. He lunged for the box. 3 sets of hands grabbed his arm at once. They're unsafe, the agent barked. She can't breathe, Emily snapped. Do you have a nebulizer? Anything? The agent shouted over his shoulder. Medic, the girl wheezed, tiny, knife-edged. Panic flared white in Adrian's mind. He could see the bathroom floor from 2 years ago. The cold tile under his knees, the plastic mask fogging, then clearing, then fogging. Wait, Lena said. She dug into her sweater pocket and produced a homemade spacer. Recycled water bottle cut cleanly, taped into a mouthpiece. I carry them. For just in case? You made that? Emily asked, already positioning it. For my mom, Lena said. And the past lived in her eyes like a bruise. It works. It's better than nothing. An agent handed over a generic inhaler from his medical kit. Emily's hands went automatic. Shake, prime, pressed a spacer. She fit it to her daughter's mouth. Breathe with me, she whispered. In 1, 2, hold. Out. That's it. The girl's chest stuttered. Air re-entered the frame of her body like certainty. She blinked through tears she refused to let fall. After 2 more exhales, the color crept back to her lips. Wan, wobbly, but there. Everyone exhaled at once, a shared ugly relief. Caleb clucked his tongue, heartwarming. Can we go back to adults now? Mara didn't look at him. One more word and I asked the agent to cuff your mouth. The agent didn't smile, he turned to Adrian. Mr. Vale, we're taking custody of that box. Chain of evidence will be strict. You'll get to look at it again with counsel. Take it, Adrian said. He didn't trust his hands. Lena reached into the box before the tape closed and plucked an inhaler whose sticker was peeling at the edge. She flipped it, squinted. Why is the font different on this one? The agent frowned. What? She pointed. On the others, the 7 has a slash. This one doesn't. The agent raised his scanner. The red beam passed. The handheld didn't chirp. It stayed blank for a breath too long, then showed. Lot 9A Community Pilot. Sample not for distribution. Mara's head tilted. Counterfeit or backdoor? Adrian reached, paused, asked permission with his eyes. The agent grudged a nod. Adrian handled the inhaler like a bomb. We did a pilot through a nonprofit pharmacy network last year. Samples were supposed to be destroyed. Marcus cleared his throat, stiff. They never are. Who ran the pilot? Emily asked. Marcus's silence answered. His eyes wouldn't hold still. Of course, Mara said. Another unit buried in a subsidiary, buried in a friend's LLC. Be careful, Mara, Marcus said. Polite poison? You approve the pilot too. Mara smiled without mirth. I approve what I'm told. Then I unfire the person who told me when it's necessary. The agent's radio chattered. He pressed it to his ear, face tightening. Copy. What? Emily asked. Tip came in, he said. Press release scheduled for 9 p.m. from a Vail Global Server cluster. Dump of internal emails. Our tech flagged the sender, a trust domain. Every head turned, almost comically, to Lena. She went still. No, I didn't. The agent held up a palm. The domain isn't exactly yours. It's a lookalike. Northbridge, accent on the I, registered 2 weeks ago. It'll look like you planned a leak. Caleb's laugh went slow. Elegant, Lena's face flamed, then iced. They're framing me. Emily pulled the flash drive from her bag. R17, she said. We think this has more than lists. It might map who had keys. If we can prove the spoof, we stop the dump. The agent eyed the drive. We have forensics, but we don't have a terminal here. Mara pivoted to the security chief. Is the roof antenna relay still hardwired to the old paper satellite link? He blinked. I think so. Then we go up, Mara said. Now the agent hesitated, scanning for threats, then nodded. 2 agents with you. The rest hold the exits. They moved. The warehouse stairs creaked under the weight of urgency. The girl held her mother's hand, sleeve brushing the homemade spacer in Lena's pocket. Adrian stayed close enough to feel the tremors in her body, and far enough to know he didn't own the right to touch her yet. Halfway up, Marcus lagged. I'm not a mountain goat, he muttered. You're a CFO, Mara snapped. Pretend the top floor is a quarterly bonus. Caleb, wrists unbound but shadowed by an agent, soaked in the choreography and filed it for later use. You all look very heroic, he observed. We'll see if the camera angle agrees. They burst onto the roof. The wind shoved them hard, doubled by the city's vented breath. A rusted satellite dish hunched in the corner like a relic. A small shack held a tangle of old servers humming like distant bees. The security chief rattled the door. Locked. Mara extended her hand without looking at him. Keys. He patted his belt like a magician, delaying a reveal. Left them in my other suit. Adrian was at the handle before his brain finished deciding. He leaned his shoulder in and threw his weight. Something splintered. The door swung. Inside, it smelled like dust and hot metal. The server's LED made a dim constellation. The battered terminal blinked a login prompt. Power? The agent asked. Trickle, the chief said. We get 5 minutes if the city sneezes. Emily slid the flash drive into a port. The terminal hiccuped, then opened a directory. Logs, maps, a file labeled RA17 Heartwood. Lena leaned in. Open that. Emily double-clicked. A schema bloomed. Nodes, edges, timestamps. The Round River algorithm wasn't just picking beneficiaries. It was predicting which communities could be pushed past breaking, which regulators could be charmed or bullied, which journalists would lose interest on day 3. In the corner, a blinking line, scheduled release. 210, source, northbridgeimpact.org. Payload size, 467 MB. Auth by, control beneficiary plus guarantor. That's us, Lena whispered, anger like a new mineral in her voice. They're using our names to cut the wire for their bomb. Can we stop it? The agent asked. Only if we counter auth, Emily said, skimming. It wants a 2-factor signature, beneficiary and guarantor. She looked at Lena. That's us and your biometric, Lena added, reading the fine print. Pulse and voice, Emily tugged the mic closer. Let's dance. She typed, then spoke when prompted. Emily Vale, authorize lockdown. A timer spun and stalled. Awaiting second factor, beneficiary, Lena swallowed. Lena Morrow, authorize lockdown. The terminal thought, then flashed. Denied. Signal integrity compromised. Please present at trusted node. Does that mean? The agent barked. It doesn't trust this old relay, Emily said. We need a clean line. Adrian stepped back out into the wind. Across the city, the law firm still bled red. Helicopters stitched light into the rain. Down below, chants rose like waves and broke against police tape. Use my phone as a tether, Mara said. Already moving. It's whitelisted. You just carry a whitelisted phone? Marcus asked, incredulous and admiring. I carry everything I might need when a man like you is in the building, she said smoothly. They rigged the tether. The terminal blinked, then steadied. The 2-factor prompt returned. Emily and Lena authorized. The terminal spit back. Lockdown authorized. Hold to confirm. The progress bar hiccuped. 99%. 100%. The screen went dark. The lights on the servers died like a flock of birds shot mid-flight. The wind found the gaps in the shack and put its fingers through. Power cut, the chief said, too fast. Brown out, pull the backup, the agent ordered. The chief reached for a breaker, and in that small motion, something was wrong. The way his hand already knew where to land, the ease. Adrian's body reacted before his reason did. He grabbed the chief's wrist. "Who told you to cut it?" Adrian asked. The question quiet as a shiv. The chief didn't break eye contact. He twisted fast and a snap crackle lit the shack. A taser cartridge bloomed from his other hand. Probes missed Adrian's chest by inches and bit into the door frame, sizzling like angry insects. Agents surged. The chief bolted, sliding sideways through the narrow gap between bodies and doors, sprinting for the roof edge. "Stop!" An agent shouted. "Gun up! Hands up!" The chief ran anyway, vaulted a low parapet like a man who'd practiced, grabbed a dangling maintenance ladder, and dropped over the side. On him, the agent barked into his radio. Feet pounded down the stairs inside. A helicopter swung closer, rotors carving the air into teeth. Ara swore, the word crisp and expensively educated. "He was yours, Adrian." "Not anymore," Adrian said. Emily fist smacked the dead monitor as if she could hit it back to life. 9 p.m. is in 32 minutes. "We can still stop it," Lena said, voice steadying itself like a hand on a rail. "There's another way." Round River's original dev put fail-safes in the contract. "There's a hard kill phrase. We just have to find it." "Where?" Marcus demanded. Lena's eyes darted across the folder tree. Heartwood Concordance Orchard. She clicked Orchard. A list of fruit names lined the screen when the power flickered back. Peach, quince, pear. Lena sucked in air. "He used nurse codes," she said softly. "My mom did that. She made grocery lists as poems when she was too tired to write pills." Emily clicked pear. Document opened. A wall of legalese culminating in a single sentence embedded like a thorn. In the event of compromised authorization, issue term return the river to its bank from both parties to nullify scheduled media events. Lena and Emily said it together, recorded by Adrian's phone. Into the dead terminal, into the wind, into whichever god was listening. Return the river to its bank. They waited. Nothing moved. The helicopter washed them with light, then drew back, bored or curious. "It needs to hear us," Emily said, and laughed once harsh. "It needs a microphone that lives." Mara slapped her phone onto the console. "Use mine. It's a better god." Lena leaned in. "Return the river to its bank," Emily repeated. The phone chewed their voices and ate the words. A second later, Mara's screen flashed. "Kill code accepted. Release nullified." A different message jumped under it, immediate and mean. "Alternate release active. 21-3 mirror." Lena closed her eyes. "Of course he made a mirror. Can you kill that?" the agent asked. "Maybe," Emily said. "Maybe," Emily said. "If we find the mirror address?" A shadow passed over them. The helicopter dipped. A spotlight pinned Caleb like a rumor. He grinned up at it and waved as if it were a yacht. Adrian moved to the roof edge and scanned the street. The security chief had disappeared into the city's underbelly. Below, a boy with a bike posted a live stream. The chat spiraled, hungry. "Dad," a girl said quietly. He turned. She'd stood unknowingly inside the spotlight just long enough to look like a news story. Now she stepped out of it. "I don't want your name if it kills people," she said. She didn't say please. She had run out of that. He took the words, "Let them hollow him," and "I won't let it," down the stairwell, shouting. An agent burst onto the roof, breath ragged. "We lost the chief at the loading bay, and..." He doubled over, hands on his knees. "Someone jammed our vehicles. Tires knifed." Caleb, who traded in inevitability, looked for the first time, a hair uncertain. "I would like to call my lawyer," denied, the agent said. "Then get me a chair," Caleb returned. "I am faint," Marcus laughed. "Ugly. You'll be fainter in cuffs." "Gentleman," Mara cut, sharp. "Focus. Focus. We have 2 fires, external optics, and internal treason." Emily's phone chirped again. A tiny audio file downloaded, attached to an email with no sender. She hit play. Leon's voice, amused, "Close. Round River always had 2 banks. If you close one, water finds the other. See you at 9:03. Lena's hands curled. "He's braver when he's a file. He's reckless because he knows he's bought time," Mara said. She turned to Marcus. Tell me right now if there's any offsite node he could use. Marcus hesitated a beat too long. Marcus, Adrian said, no air left for patience. There's a colo we used in 21, Marcus said, dark fiber off the old exchange. Leon managed it during the regulatory squeeze. I thought it was mothballed. It never is, Mara said again. And there was something like respect in her disgust. Address? I have to. Marcus tapped a mental map, cursed. It's in my password vault, which is on our network, Adrian finished. Which you are locked out of, Mara added. Lena looked to the terminal. The faintest power returned. The lead blinked awake like hungover eyes. She hammered keys. If Array 17 Heartwood maps the endpoints, it might list that colo. These nodes are labeled in fruit. Quince is old servers, Fig are field units, Pomegranate is archives, Olive is legal. She glanced up at Leon's absence. Figures. She clicked Quince, a lattice of endpoints unfurled. One glowed a different color. QXG12. Lena clicked. Metadata blinked. Address, access path, heartbeat. His mirror, Emily said. He hid it under a legacy exchange name. Can you redirect it? The agent asked, suddenly very gentle, as if speaking to a bomb tech. Better, Lena said. We can make it tell the truth. Adrian felt something lift inside his chest he hadn't earned yet. Do it. We need guarantor authority to push content, Emily said. Mara's mouth twitched. You have it, Lena typed. Emily typed. The screen became an orchestra of prompts and confirmations. Time, little and large, scratched at their ankles. 10 minutes, the agent said softly. Wind tore a loose sheet of plastic from the dish. It flapped like a bird trying to remember how to fly. Go live, Emily said. What are we broadcasting? Marcus asked, wary. Lena's finger hovered over the enter key. She looked at the girl who'd almost died, at the man who had failed her and was trying not to again. The list, Lena said. Not the names of people who hurt. The ones who chose acceptable loss. We show the emails Leon forged, and the ones he didn't. We show the algorithm's teeth. We say who fed it. Marcus backed up as if a wave had reared. You publish that and the market burns. Our pension funds, our suppliers, our neighbors, Lena said, light and steel. My mother. Mara nodded once. When this is done, there will be class actions that make your head a museum exhibit. But if you run now, there's nothing left to negotiate. Adrian found Emily's eyes. She gave him nothing to hide behind. He looked at his daughter. We'll fix it, he said, not promising the one thing he couldn't deliver anymore. Safety? We'll try. She held his gaze, didn't nod, didn't absolve. She was too smart to trade absolution for intention. 7 minutes, the agent said. Lena hit enter. The terminal blinked. The mirror endpoint connected. A tiny preview window popped. A streaming frame of black, then a title card built from code they didn't write. Round River opens. The cursor arrow hovered. Who did that? Emily whispered. The dev, Lena said. He wanted this option for a reason. What dev? Marcus demanded. Lena's mouth twitched. The one who answered my mom's emails anonymously. He signed them with fruit. Marcus stared at her. You never told us there was an insider. You never asked, she said, and pressed again. The frame cut to the algorithm map. Names bled onto the screen. Dates, decisions, the little ugly tags like delay acceptable and reserve litigation. An audio track rolled, Leon's laughter. Marcus's voice, another voice. Adrian's, but not the one in Caleb's file. This one was from a different meeting, a different year. We cannot optimize harm, it said, steady. We can only stop causing it. Emily looked at him, surprised, then not surprised. I remember that day, she said. You were trying. Trying isn't. He started. Enough, Lena finished, but it's a beginning. 4 minutes. The chat on the preview exploded. Reporters' handles lit like fireworks. Caleb, who had been composing another snide sentence, stopped, attention drawn in a way that wasn't performative. You're all insane, he said almost wonderingly. You're burning your own house. Maybe it never belonged to us, Adrian said. And to his own astonishment, felt relief move through him like a tide returning to its bank. A clang from the stairwell snapped heads around. The door flew open. The security chief lurched in, dripping, one knee torn raw, flanked by 2 men in plain clothes with the kind of still faces that never belong to activists. One held a compact submachine gun low and flat against his thigh. Down, the agent shouted, moving, but too much was happening too fast. The plainclothesman took 3 steps, raised the weapon, and aimed. Not at Adrian, not at Lena, not at the agents, but at the terminal. Everything slowed. Emily shoved Lena sideways. Mara reached for her phone. The instinct to film battling the instinct to survive, the girl screamed without sound. The gun coughed. Bullets chewed through old metal and new truth. Sparks spat. The screen shattered into a fine white dust of pixels. The live preview stuttered, froze on the image of a highlighted line. Acceptable loss. District 12C. Silence stamped the roof. Wind again. The helicopter, slower now, as if it too was waiting to hear the next line. The plainclothesman pivoted, bringing the muzzle up. He might have chosen a face. He didn't get to decide. A single shot cracked from the stairwell, precise, unpanicked. The plainclothesman's shoulder kicked. The gun skittered. Agents swarmed. The shooter stepped into the light. Emily's father, Harold Wexler, silver hair, old anger, board member emeritus. Cheeks flushed with effort. Eyes ripped open with a fury he hadn't allowed himself in years. "Enough," he said, voice like a gavel. He pointed the gun at the floor, safe in a way that said he'd been taught. He looked at the security chief and did not look away. "You work for me," he said quietly. "Or you used to, and this is where you stop." Emily made a sound that broke and rebuilt itself mid-note. "Dad?" Harold didn't look at her. "When you don't listen to your daughters, you bury your granddaughters," he said, then finally cut his gaze to Adrian. "You have 3 minutes to make that mirror live again. How?" Adrian asked helplessly, full of wires and failure. Harold's mouth flicked. "You always did prefer a cliff. Somewhere down there in the dust and the shot metal, the terminal's power light still glowed. A stubborn green seed." Lena dropped to her knees in the wreckage, fingers already hunting, already unafraid. "There's still a path," she said. Breath fast, eyes bright with fight. "We just have to find it before the city finds it." Lena's fingers disappeared into the torn guts of the terminal, wire insulation crinkling under her nails. The green seed light pulsed, stubborn. Wind tried to snuff it with cold breath. She didn't let it. "Power rails alive," she said. Backplanes fried. "If I can bypass the video and talk to the Nick, we can still shove the mirror." "English," the agent said. "We don't need the screen," Emily translated, already pulling her hair tie between her teeth and using both hands to cradle the chassis steady. "We need the line." Adrian knelt opposite them, suit ruined, kneecaps soaked through. His daughter crouched beside him, small and ferocious, eyes locked on Lena's hands like magic was something you could learn by watching closely enough. "Insulation," Lena muttered. "I need something to keep the pins from kissing." Emily handed over a pen cap. "Better than my faith," she said. Lena laughed once, short, sincere, then wedged the cap as a brace. 2 minutes if the wind doesn't get cute. A clap sounded behind them, flesh on metal. "He sent me those anonymous attachments the year before he left." "He didn't leave," Harold said softly. "He went home and forgot to come back." Grief moved through the roof like weather. Lena held it a second, then set it down. Adrian stood. He didn't rehearse. He didn't ask for notes. He stepped to the edge where the city could see the ruin, and the helicopter could see his face. And he spoke to 100,000 phones and one pair of young eyes. "My name is Adrian Vale," he said. The wind took the first syllables and gave them back. "I built a company I believed fed the world. We also poisoned it. I told myself that if we did some good, we could afford a little harm. I told myself the market made me do it. I told myself stories so I could sleep." He looked at his daughter. The years he had lost were a country he couldn't visit. "I am resigning," he said. "Effective now. I am signing the company I built into a trust on terms I do not control to repair what we broke. Ms. Morrow will lead that work. The board will stand or fall with her. I will cooperate with any investigation. I will testify." There's a document you'll see in a moment suggesting I wrote that optics mattered more than fatalities. I did not write it. I wrote other things that were softer lies. He looked straight into the light, letting it flatten him into a man instead of a brain. "To the people who breathed what we sold, I'm sorry is an insult until it becomes a sum. We're going to start paying a debt that cannot be paid." He nodded once to Lena, once to Emily. "Return the river to its bank," he said quietly, and felt the little old promise flex its muscles. Mara didn't clap. She nodded like he'd finally done the first ordinary decent thing in his life. Lena pressed enter. The mirror went live. Phones down on the street pinged like popcorn. Screens and bars flipped. News anchors pivoted mid-sentence. The algorithm map spilled out in clean font and dirty intent. Voices overlaid, Leon laughing, Marcus making arrangements, executives using verbs like mitigate for people and accelerate for risk. Inside the stream, a box popped up. Lot 7C approval chain. Names, timestamps, sign-offs, CFO override, legal dispensation, board informed, mute. Marcus stumbled backward like the letters had mass. I can fix. He started, then closed his mouth because the word had become a threat. Lena's finger hovered again. There's more, she said. Caleb's mask finally cracked. Kill the feed, he snapped at no one with power. 40 seconds, the agent said, watching the radio. Somewhere, injunctions were sprinting up courthouse steps in expensive shoes. Show them the clinic, Emily said, and her voice didn't shake. Show them the hallway. Show them the lot number. Show them the kids. Lena did. The stream cut to the photograph from the folder. The row of inhalers stamped with Lot 7C. A crossfade to clinic charts with names blurred, pulses visible. A transcript. Emily's late-night email to a nameless dev. Please, the lot is wrong. Please help me force a recall. The dev's reply in lowercase fruit. The chat detonated. Some curses were prayerful. Some prayers were curses. A senator's staffer DM'd a district attorney Liv. An activist waved a banner at the lens and cried without hiding it. 10 seconds, Mara said. Make it count, Harold said, and the old owner of a dead paper sounded like a headline. Adrian swallowed. There was one piece left and it was personal and it was a blade. He took it. I signed the risk memo, he said into the feed, voice steady because he made it be. I ignored someone I love. Our daughter almost died because I chose a quarter over a breath. Don't let men like me tell you it was complicated. It was a choice. Emily flinched. The honesty hit like weather again. Their daughter's hand crept into hers, small fingers, steel bones. The terminal hiccuped. The mirror coughed, as if reluctant to let go. Then black. The injunction had gotten its hands around the hose. Silence, wind, sirens. Someone shouted and was shushed by a helicopter. Phones everywhere kept playing the last frozen frame. Acceptable loss, District 12C. Under it, a progress bar that had reached 100% before the lights went out. Down below, the chant changed key. It wasn't waterback anymore. It was names, the algorithm's names. People were singing their dead differently. The agent exhaled like a tire. That's enough, he said, half to the law and half to himself. We've lit it. Caleb found his smile and put it back on like an expensive coat. Cute show, he said. Tomorrow I'll buy 3 anchors and a judge. By Friday you'll all be conspiracy theorists. By Friday, Mara said pleasantly, you'll be indicted. He winked. Send flowers, send flowers. An agent's radio crackled, urgent. Unit 26. We've got eyes on Leon Ames. Repeat, Leon Ames at the 5th Street Skybridge. Emily startled. He ran to the firm. Of course he did, Mara said. He thinks he's safer with his paper. What Skybridge? Adrian asked. The one between the old exchange and the annex, Harold said at once. He had printed that architecture a lifetime ago. It's glass. He'll feel seen. Lena stood, knuckles white, eyes hot. He has the rest of the folder. Then let's go, the agent said. 2 cars. Go, go, go. They moved, downstairs wet with old rain, past men who thought obedience was a future, out into a city that had recognized itself on a screen and wanted to touch. The crowd didn't part so much as melt around the girl. She was 12 and small and very alive. And people made space for that even when they were furious. The drive was short and took a year. The 5th Street Skybridge hovered like a vein between 2 buildings. Through it, a man was a small crooked thing. Leon ran, a red folder under his arm, a laugh still hooked in his throat from a lifetime of getting away. Agents fanned, choreographed. Caleb stayed in the car with 2 of them. Handcuffs were no longer theoretical. Harold took Emily's elbow without touching it, steadying without patronizing. Marcus hovered between running and confessing. Adrian stepped onto the building's mezzanine and looked up. Leon, he called. It echoed. Leon slowed. He pressed his palm to the glass, smiling down. You should have taken the deal. You should have not made a life out of small cruelties, Adrian said. Leon tilted his head. If they're small, they fit more. Lena took a step forward. You worked with my mother, she said, and her voice slipped through the glass like a wire. She came to you with a folder. You told her to quiet down and mailed it to yourself. Leon's smile didn't move. I made a copy in case I needed an umbrella. Then give it to me, Lena said. It's raining. Make me. Mara didn't yell. She looked at a maintenance worker holding a keyring like a life, and she said, "Which panel opens the bridge?" He pointed, surprised to be drafted into opera. An agent hit the lock. The door thunked. They poured into the bridge. Glass on both sides, city on both sides, wind looking for somewhere to live. Leon ran. Agents ran. Lena ran. Adrian ran, and his chest hurt and he kept running. The bridge flexed under their weight like something alive considering options. Leon reached the middle, turned, pulled a small aerosol from his pocket, and had the grace to look amused. Spacers work both ways, he said, and sprayed the floor behind him. Oil. The surface went slick. The first agent slid and caught the rail. Lena's foot went out from under her. She windmilled, caught nothing. Adrian didn't think. He lunged. He got an arm around her waist before her forehead met glass. The bridge groaned like a wave. "Got you," he said, and realized as he said it he was saying it to more than a woman falling. "Let go," she gritted. "Go," he released. She rolled, came up, kept moving. The girl, his girl, stood at the entry with Emily, eyes too big. She held the homemade spacer in both hands like a talisman. Leon reached the far door. It didn't open. He banged the bar. The building's dead power had finally done someone a kindness. He turned with a face like a wrong note. Adrian saw him make the calculation. Back through the oil, through bodies, through consequences. He saw the little boy Leon had been who learned early that papers are how you hurt people when you're not big enough to use fists. "Don't," Adrian said. Hands raised, voice a rope. "It's over. It's over." Leon smiled, bright and brittle. "No, it's beginning." He ran at them, red folder clutched like a shield. The bridge trembled. An agent slid left, grabbed Leon's sleeve. The slick sent them both into the glass wall. It spidered. Sound dropped out for a beat that lasted a lifetime. Back. Back. Someone shouted. The next breath shattered the pane. Wind slammed. Paper exploded like birds. The red folder ripped open, contents catching air. For a moment, the sky was filled with sheets, each a kind of confession. Leon grabbed for them with both hands, lost balance, pinwheeled, found the rail with his fingertips, hung. The city below opened its mouth. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Lena, idiot brave or just brave, dropped to her stomach and slid on the oiled glass until her fingers brushed his wrist. "Don't let go," she said. Leon laughed hoarse. Said the spider. "Let me be a hand," she shot back. "Maybe that's allowed too." His eyes flicked to the papers fluttering like exhausted birds. One caught against the rail by Adrian's shoe. He bent without thinking, trapped it with his palm. The header stared up. Injunctive motion, Caleb Rain. Prepared weeks prior, he held it up. "You were always a step ahead of the truth," he told Leon. "You just never planned for anyone to jump." Leon's grip slipped a fraction. His mouth worked. For a second, half a second, Adrian saw a man about to choose the right thing and then live with it. Then the glass under Lena's chest groaned, and self-preservation threw a hook into Leon's ribs. He let go of Lena's wrist and grabbed for the folder that wasn't there anymore. Fingers closed on air. He fell. The scream came late, the way screams do when gravity writes its own story. Agents flinched and looked away. Lena didn't. She watched him drop, face open, and didn't cry, because something past crying had moved in. Papers kept spinning. Some stuck to wet glass. Some sailed slow and stubborn onto the building's ledge across the way where the press corral had formed. Hands reached and caught them. A camera framed one in perfect focus. Acceptable loss projection. District 12C in black ink in Leon's neat hand. The bridge creaked again. Someone shut the door that hadn't opened. Someone else cursed softly in a language that was mostly prayer. The world came back in pieces. Emily had her arms around their daughter with a strength that made the girl sound half-crushed and safe. "Mom," the girl protested, annoyed and grateful, which is the average emotion of children. Mara touched her earpiece, though it wasn't on. "Habit." "Caleb Rain," she said to the air, "you are under arrest for conspiracy to obstruct a federal investigation, and about 7 other things I'll list once a prosecutor writes them down." Down on the street, agents who loved paperwork as a form of violence put Caleb in a car with the politest efficiency cruelty allows. Marcus stood in the bridge, oil on his shoes. looking like a man who had finally been told the truth by a mirror. He cleared his throat. "I know," Adrian said softly. "Not yet. Do quiet. It's the only new thing you can do." Marcus shut his mouth. The restraint looked good on him, like a suit he should have tried on years ago. Lena pushed herself up, palms glass burned, breath torn. She stared at the empty air where a person had been. "I didn't want that," she said. "I know," Adrian said. She shook her head. "No, I don't think you do. I wanted him to say he was sorry and mean it. I wanted him to hand me the folder. I wanted the world to be something you can convince and not something you have to shove." Emily squeezed her shoulder. "Wanting that is how you don't turn into him." Wind moved through the broken pane like the building was exhaling. The papers settled in their new lives, on the ledge in hands against police tape. A boy on a bike caught one on his tire spokes and rode it like a ribbon. The girl stepped away from Emily and walked to Adrian, careful over the slick. She held out the homemade spacer. "You should carry one," she said. "If you're going to fix things." He took it, heavier than plastic. "I will, promise," she asked, testing not the word but the weight of it now that she knew what promises cost. He met her eyes. "Promise." Sirens changed tone. Reporters changed questions. The city didn't forgive, but it listened. It would remember differently now. Downstairs, the environmental crimes agents gathered statements like seeds. Mara moved among them like a conductor who doesn't need to lift her baton to have an orchestra. Harold leaned on the rail, catching breath he'd lent to his children for a decade. Marcus sat on a plastic chair and stared at his hands as if he'd finally found their owner. Lena rested her forehead against the unbroken pane and closed her eyes for one long, stingy minute. When she opened them, she was back in her body. "It's not over," she said. "It never is," Emily replied. A phone vibrated in Adrian's pocket. The number without a name that had known when to call the first time. He answered. A voice he didn't recognize, calm as a lake at night. "You did the right thing," loudly, it said. "That's rare. Who is this?" "You can call me Orchard West," the voice said. "Theo taught me to plant and wait." Round River wasn't just a program. It was a door. Adrian stepped into a corner of the bridge where the hum of the city softened. "What door?" "The one your competitors walked through years ago," Orchard West said, unbothered by drama. "Rain was a middleman. The source is bigger. The list in your pocket? It was the pilot. Phase 1. Adrian's fingers found the folded sheet he'd trapped with his shoe. Injunctive motion, Caleb Rain. He flattened it. On the back, in a scrawl that wasn't Leon's, a single line, "It flows west too." "What do you want?" Adrian asked. "A choice," the voice said. "Keep burning and calling it warmth. Or learn to live in the dark and build fire that doesn't eat your neighbors." The line clicked dead. It didn't feel like an ending. "Who was that?" Emily asked. "A gardener," Adrian said. Because that's what Orchard West sounded like. Someone who knew time and roots and patience. Mara's phone pinged with a push alert. She glanced, then handed it to Lena. Lena read, her jaw set. "The judge denied the injunction on the mirror," she said. "He wrote that the public interest outweighs reputational risk." Harold made a noise that may have been a laugh trying to stand up. Someone remembered what a newsroom feels like. Below, the first siren of dawn, the city's other alarm, began somewhere nobody looked at. It wasn't morning yet, but it was pointed in that direction. Adrian turned to his daughter. "You hungry?" he asked, as if that were a possible question at the end of a night like this. She looked at the broken glass, at the city with its new complications and old traffic, then back at him. "Yeah," she said, "but not for that." She pointed at the dark line of the river and the lights crawling along it like a necklace. "For what then?" he asked. "For you to keep that promise," she said, simple as a door. "Every day, even when I'm not looking," he nodded. He was not absolved. He was given homework. Lena slid the spacer back into her pocket, then changed her mind and pressed it into his hand again. "Keep it," she said. "You'll need tools where you're going." "Where am I going?" he asked. She glanced at the agents, at the board chair, at the city that knew his name differently now. Her mouth quirked. "Into the river," she said. "And maybe, if you don't drown, back out." Somewhere beyond the shattered pane, the wind turned a degree warmer, as if an old system had shifted a fraction. It could have been in his head. It was enough. From the street, a camera lens climbed, hungry. A journalist shouted a question that wasn't the old one. "Ms. Morrow, What's the first community you fix? Lena didn't look down. She looked at Adrian, at Emily, at the girl, at Harold, at Marcus sitting very still as if quiet were penance and not performance. Then she looked west where the voice had pointed. District 12C, she said, loud enough to carry, and then the ones you wrote down as acceptable loss. And then the ones you forgot to write because you don't know where we live. The crowd answered in a language older than filings. It sounded like a river being given a path. In the pocket of Adrian's ruined suit, Mara's pen clicked. The gold one he'd signed too many bad things with. She held it out with 2 fingers like a loaded thing. Use it, she said. Differently, he took it. The weight was the same, everything else had changed. Behind them, the bridge groaned once, settling into its own bones. Ahead, the city didn't wait. It never had. He loved that about it, and now he feared it, and now he would try to deserve it. Okay, he said to all of them and to himself. Let's start.